What so-called overreaction to something you did that you feel was entirely justified?
Husband spent the night at ex-girlfriend while I was pregnant. I filed for divorce and ended my pregnancy. We were together for more than 5 years before getting married. We met when we were both interns at our first job. Everyone thought we were perfect for each other, and we also thought we were meant to be. We were young and ambitious together, and I thought we both had the same goal in mind. I never wanted to have kids. Motherhood was just not something that I really wanted for myself. My husband knew this from the start. We talked about our goals and dreams, and he said that he just wanted to be with me, kids or no kids. The ink was not even dry yet in our marriage certificate when he started giving hints he wanted to hold a child of my own. He would volunteer to babysit his nieces and nephews in our home, which, of course, would mean I would get to babysit them too. He would say that it would be nice if we had our own kids running around the home. That went on for months. He kept dropping hints, sometimes even outright saying it, that we should get pregnant and have our own children while we were still young. We were only in our late 20s at that time, and while we hadn't reached our career goals yet, we were on our way there. I sat him down and told him that my feelings about having children had not changed. He pleaded with me and said we could just have one and he would be a hands-on dad so I wouldn't have to change much about my career and lifestyle. I still didn't want to give in, but I loved him so much and saw that it was one sacrifice I could make for him. It was not that I didn't like kids, but I just didn't want to have my own. I figured that I had a strong and supportive partner and that I would learn to love being a mother. And so I agreed. We started trying for a baby. I kept telling myself that it was for the best because I was gaslit into thinking that a marriage was incomplete without children. A little segue from our pregnancy journey. There was just one thing about my husband that didn't sit well with me. He was so perfect in so many ways but one. He had this ex-girlfriend whom he was still in touch with. I didn't consider myself the jealous type. I didn't check his phone or messages. I was fine with him hanging out with female friends. They were all lovely and nice, and he never gave me reason to get jealous of them. However, he had an ex-girlfriend who was touchy-feely with him. I had met her twice, both times we were in a group dinner. She always took the seat beside him, so we sandwiched him together. I wasn't comfortable with the setup, but he didn't seem to mind. She always had an excuse to touch him, lean into him, rest her head on his shoulder, wipe his mouth with napkin, etc. When we were alone, I told him I was uncomfortable with her doing that. He said he understood, but he knew that I was not the jealous type, so he thought I would understand that there wasn't anything to worry about. Note that he never said he would stop her, just told me that it was basically nothing. The next time we saw her, she did the same thing and he still let her. I told him again I didn't like it. He explained again that it was nothing. The ex-girlfriend wasn't mean to me or anything. She appeared to dominate the conversations and always making them all about her and my husband, but if a topic came up that involved me, she was attentive and appeared interested. That's why I was again gaslit into thinking that it was all in my head. On to our pregnancy journey. After just months of trying, I found out I was indeed pregnant. I took a test the second I missed a day, and it was positive. A trip to the doctor the next day confirmed it. He was ecstatic. He wanted to tell everyone immediately. I told him to hold off first until we were past the first trimester or at least a couple of weeks more just to be on the safe side. He agreed, but he still started planning for a nursery and thinking of names. A few days later, he messaged me to say he would be going out for drinks with his buddies so he would be a little late. I told him it was fine and that I would just get takeout for dinner. It was in the wee hours of the morning when I noticed he hadn't come home. I messaged him and called him. Both were unanswered. I started to worry, so I messaged those who I thought were with him that night. No one answered. I wasn't surprised because it was still so early in the morning. I figured he was bunking with one of them because he was too drunk to drive. That would have been fine if he just informed me to keep me from worrying. I checked his friend's social media posts just to get an idea of his whereabouts. Wouldn't you know it, one of them posted photos of the group in a bar. My husband was in the few of the photos, all of which showed him sitting so closely to a woman, the aforementioned ex-girlfriend. In one of the photos, it was clear that she was sitting on his lap, and he was hugging her from behind. In another one, they were side-hugging. Clearly, he wasn't a passive receiver of affection this time. One of the friends I messaged earlier texted me back, informing me that the ex-girlfriend drove my husband home because he had a few drinks. Which home, though? Because it definitely wasn't our home. My husband came home a few hours later, apologizing for not messaging me beforehand. He took a cab home. I asked where he spent the night, and perhaps sensing that I already knew, or at least I already had an idea, he admitted that the ex-girlfriend drove him to her home because he was in no position to drive. I asked why he didn't take a cab like he did this morning or booked an Uber. He said that it didn't occur to him, explaining that he slept on her sofa until 30 minutes ago when his Uber arrived. I reminded him I wasn't comfortable with him hanging out with her, and he not only discounted how I felt, he also completely ignored my feelings on the matter. He said he was so tired and we would just talk about it when he returned from work later. I asked why he was still tired when he just slept all night. He got angry because I implied that something happened with him and the ex. I pointed out that there were pictures of them all over each other. It was clear that he didn't know someone posted pictures of them. He didn't have an answer for me but told me I should change my attitude because jealousy didn't suit me. He then showered before leaving for work. At that point, I knew I had to get out of there. He would just gaslight me into thinking it was all in my head. I was a mess. I had been crying so hard since he left. I called work to tell them I would take the day off and called my parents next to ask if I could stay there for a while. They arrived an hour later to help me pack. I hadn't told them anything yet, but I guess they knew their daughter was in distress. My father drove my car and I rode with my mom. I explained to them what happened when we arrived at their home. They asked what I wanted to do next. I was quiet for a moment before telling them, with full conviction, that I wanted a divorce. I guess they were taken aback, and for good reason. It was our first major fight as a married couple and I wanted out immediately. But in my mind, it was all clear to me that he disrespected me and disregarded my feelings. I wasn't even sure if he slept with her, but at that time, it didn't matter. He did it deliberately. Being drunk wasn't an excuse. He wasn't drunk yet when he stayed so close to her despite my feelings on the matter. My parents asked me to think over it for a day. They didn't want me to act while I was feeling emotional. I messaged my husband to tell him where I was, but he shouldn't bother me for a few days. He didn't message back until night, agreeing that I should cool off so I could think rationally. By the next day, my decision to get out of this marriage was still firm. If anything, it just became even clearer to me that it was imperative that I get out as early as possible. I told my parents my decision to divorce him, as well as to end my pregnancy. I told them that I didn't want to be tethered to him with a child that I originally didn't want. They were shocked I was pregnant to begin with. My parents, bless them, fully supported me. We arranged for a divorce lawyer immediately and scheduled a termination at a clinic. I messaged him the plan. He called me immediately, demanding to know what I was thinking. I told him to talk to my lawyer and hung up. His ex-girlfriend messaged me next, which was very telling. They were either together or he called her immediately after our call. She said that I was overreacting because they didn't even get to frack. He went to my parents' house the next day, but I was at work. My mother was the only one at home and she refused to let him in. She warned me that he came by, so I knew he was coming to my workplace. I left early to avoid him. I got messages from his family that I was overreacting, that I was throwing away a good marriage and unaliving my child because of my unfounded jealousy. I don't know why they thought they were going to convince me to come back when they sent me messages. All that just proved was that I made the right choice. I never wanted to be a mother. I should have never given in to him. And with my marriage about to end, I didn't want a child to tie me to him anymore. He tried several times to see me. I dodged it every time. He gave me space for a while, perhaps thinking I would calm down and realize I was just overreacting. He was angry that I ended my pregnancy, calling me every name in the book for apparently involving his innocent child. I never wavered after making my decision. For me it was final. He figured it out when he got served with divorce papers. That was 3 years ago. I still get occasional messages from his family and some mutual friends who thought I overreacted. They kept saying I couldn't even prove he cheated. I never regretted my decision. I loved that I was able to get out when I did.
If you liked the story, please give it a thumbs up. Share the video and subscribe for more. Click the bell icon so you don't miss out on new videos. Thank you very much.